Retired four-star general, former Army Vice Chief of Staff, chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, and a Fox News military analyst. General, good to have you here this evening. So this is the big question that we want to answer. What is the United States' strategy to take on this global threat that exists in all these forms with a common purpose?
Well, sadly to say, we don't have a strategy to cope with it. And as the intro implies, and as you're leading up to, in my belief, radical Islam is the global security challenge of our generation. Much as fascism and Nazism was for 20 years in the middle of the last century, and communism was for 40 years in the latter part of the 20th century. But this challenge with radical Islam, Martha, we've been at it now for 20 years. It began with the World Trade Center in the early 90s, the USS Cole, 2 embassies dropped in Africa, 9/11, and all the things that have been happening since. And after 20 years, Martha, the facts are that radical Islam is on the rise. It has quadrupled 4 times over in the Middle East and Africa. It's on the rise in South Asia, and they are motivating sympathizers and radical Islamists in Western countries to attack their home populations and things of interest.
But, you know, some say that we created it, that the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan and the situation at Abu Ghraib and other places is what prompted and fomented this radicalism. Do you believe that?
That is absolute rubbish. This is a geopolitical movement driven by ideology, and their readings tell us what their objectives are. Their objectives are to dominate and control Muslim lands. Caliphate is a good word for it. All Muslim lands, and then eventually to dominate and control the world. The ideology and geopolitical ambitions are as great as communism. What's different about it is they use jihad, or the ability to kill innocents or non-believers, to accomplish those objectives. So the facts that 9/11 occurred and we responded to that, and somehow that has created this movement or grew this movement more rapidly, makes no sense whatsoever. It's another failure to understand what is this geopolitical movement that is driven by a radical Islamist ideology. And our leaders do not explain that to us. We do not get educated about what this is, and therefore they're off the hook in terms of providing a comprehensive strategy to deal with it.
That's such a great point, because you talked about communism, and we all remember Ronald Reagan and Gorbachev and Margaret Thatcher bringing that to an end. And we remember, of course, in World War II with Roosevelt and Churchill and the bigger theme that existed to end it. And it doesn't seem that we have that kind of leadership and understanding of a global threat in this way at this point from this current administration.
And what makes this movement as dangerous as it is, you know, certainly those 17 deaths and the barbaric way they go about doing it, and the beheadings that have taken place in Syria, and the 2,000 deaths we've just observed in Nigeria, outrageous behavior by Boko Haram. But here's what makes this so dangerous for the entire world. It is a fact, and we have established this from getting into the Al-Qaeda and radical Islamic treasures of information and exchanges that they've had. We know that one of the major underpinnings of the movement is to acquire weapons of mass destruction. And if they were able to acquire dirty bombs, small nuclear weapons, is there any doubt in anyone's mind that they would try to use that to maximum advantage in great population centers in the world? So this is a dangerous movement, and it's growing, and we do not have the kind of 20th century leadership that was exercised by America and its allies and coalition partners to deal with this growing menace.
Scary situation. General Keane, thank you very much. Good to have you here as always.
Good talking to you, Martha.
So in the wake